What's happening, everybody? It's Erik J. Olson. Today we are recording another episode of the Journey to $100 Million live. And today I have Neal on the podcast. Hey, Neal.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. Well, thanks for joining us. Before we jump into it, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Can do. So I'm an attorney in Phoenix, Arizona. I generally help closely held businesses or their owners manage their legal risks. I've been practicing in Phoenix for approximately 28 years. I'm an owner in a 38 attorney firm with approximately 75 total employees. Outside of work, I spend much time with my wife and, two of my 4 children who are still at home. And we live right near the Phoenix Mountain Reserve, and we love to hike. It's right down the street.
Ooh, very nice. That sounds great. Cool. What is your primary expertise? I mean, it sounds like helping businesses out. Is that the kind of client that you work with?
Yes. What I always like to say is that everything that has to do with contracts generally is something that I deal with. I do go deep in a few different areas in business and contract issues, mainly related to real estate matters, debtor creditor issues, certain employment issues, construction issues, and negotiating and documenting sales of businesses. And this varies the types of clients. It makes it very interesting for me because I mainly represent closely held businesses based in Phoenix or their owners, but I also once in a while and actually currently generally have people or companies from not only outside the state, but in Arizona, we have a lot of Canadians who come down here, mainly it's real estate issues with them, but keeps it very interesting. It goes across industries, so it can be doctors and medical practices, retail, restaurants, manufacturing. The breadth of it, because what it encompasses, is something that is very attractive to me and keeps me focused and interested on a day-to-day basis.
So I would imagine with contract law and dealing with some of the businesses that you listed, you've had an interesting couple of months with COVID and people trying to break contracts.
Definitely not as much break contracts, but issues that have come up. Obviously, you see it mainly, as will not shock anybody, in the retail sector. A lot of restaurant clients and retail businesses that have had issues. I've also had a lot of commercial landlords who've had issues then with tenants and trying to figure out how to work with them while their mortgage companies are not working with them. And so it's been an interesting time. I've both helped businesses shut down or figure out how to continue on, both while either being forced closed through the various closures our state has imposed or the partial reopenings. At this point, I think the retail environment, I'm sure it is nationwide here, it is very, very difficult.
Yeah. So I would imagine that COVID and just everything that's come up with that has been kind of a legal challenge and a business challenge for your clients, maybe even for yourself. Has that been the case? And is it something that you've overcome, or are you still kind of dealing with it?
All of the above. The way COVID impacted my firm is probably like most businesses. We were able to quickly deploy to work from home, and as attorneys, we've had the ability to log in remotely for years and really work from anywhere. But we had never really done that with our non-attorney employees, and we were able to do that with assistants, accounting, and we have a skeleton crew at our office. But otherwise, everybody really mainly works from home unless they're attorneys and they choose to go in. And so it's worked really well. Our workload remains high, and people have actually been really productive because, again, until you have people deployed in that way, you don't know. And I think a lot of companies have found that, at least when I talk to clients and people I know professionally. We've actually found something interesting in that our billings and collections have actually been higher, say, of a usual summer time period, because being in Phoenix, Arizona, it will not shock people that when it's really hot here, people like to go on vacation and go elsewhere. We've had people go on vacations, whether they're taking time at home or going camping or going somewhere, but it's been so much less than usual that it's made the billable hours and the work we've done for our clients higher than usual for June, July, August, and even into September currently. And then also, as you alluded to earlier and we discussed, the practice areas, there's definitely been a difference because of COVID in practice areas, in that I've seen an uptick in consulting with businesses and business owners regarding financial issues. And so, as I mentioned, I do debtor creditor work, and there is a lot of planning that can go in if a business has financial challenges, may fail, and how you try and either save the company or wind it down in a very effective manner that is hopefully beneficial as much as it can be to the creditors and to the owners, but also to help the owners hopefully preserve their wealth and not throw good money after bad. Because it won't shock you, a lot of them come to me too late after they've put a huge amount of what they've earned their whole life back into the company, which is really a hard place to be. And then, as I mentioned, obviously the uptick in the commercial landlord-tenant space has just been huge at this point here and elsewhere. It really, the one thing it hasn't changed is the environment's been very interesting. Kind of, I feel like we rode this kind of roller coaster after the recession back up, and we're now a little bit down.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't know from the stock market, but when you're dealing with closely held business owners. And it doesn't change what I need to do is when I've got potential clients, especially when there's clients who have either a potential claim for a lawsuit or are being sued, the questions have to be asked to make sure, can they financially afford to do what they want, whether it's defending a lawsuit they're forced into or bringing the claim. And not because you discourage them from taking action, or if you're a defendant, you have to defend, but it's really more about trying to figure out the strategy and how you can do something within someone's budget, because legal's always an extra expense in most areas when it comes to litigation.
Yeah, I know when I go to my lawyer, I usually ask them for a budget for whatever it is that I want to get done, at least a range. The last thing you want to be is shocked when you get a really big bill at the end of a project.
No, or even month to month. And I do, since I'm a little different, most people specialize in areas, but because of how I manage my business clients, I do both certain transactional work and oversee and really strategize on litigation that I have partners of mine and younger attorneys on my team work on. I see a bunch of different areas, and I want clients to know I'm not working for mainly big giant corporations where I'm dealing with middle management. I'm dealing usually with the owners, and I know who's paying the check to my firm, and it's their money, and it comes out of money they'd otherwise be earning themselves. So I always find it very important to have an open, honest relationship with them. And when a big bill's coming, I just had this with a client for August, where I tell them before the end of the month, hey, just know, like, you knew we were busy, and I don't know the exact number off the top of my head right now. Know that it's going to be in this range, it's coming, so you can plan for it. Like we discussed early in the case, there are going to be months like this. Again, I always think it's really important to set expectations for people so they understand where they are, because like you were alluding to, no one wants that surprise bill.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned a couple of things. 38 lawyers, is that correct?
Yes.
So 38 lawyers, 75 people in the firm.
Correct.
And you've also mentioned focusing in on your ideal client, which are business owners, small to medium-sized businesses, I assume, probably not as many of the bigger businesses. I'm sure that took you a while to kind of like fine-tune that strategy. Is that one of the things that have helped you have grown over the years? And how long did it take before you got to that point where you kind of like narrowed in on exactly who you want to be selling to or servicing? And, like, I'm sure there was a period of time where it was experimentation, and then you kind of like figured it out.
I think that's fair. I think when you're a young attorney or in any business, imagine sales, that you think everybody's your customer, which is arguably true. But at the end of the day, as an attorney, taking on every case, when you're a young attorney originating work, is very exciting. That means sometimes you ignore the red flags with clients that you wouldn't necessarily want to represent. It makes you sometimes spend more time on small cases that make it hard for a client to pay. It's a learning experience. And we have a mentoring program at my firm, so we hopefully try to avoid that. But again, young attorneys, even, it doesn't matter when I was doing it or now, are very excited when they're bringing in their own work. What I look to is that there's a few different things that happened to me. I got really lucky where I had both formal and informal mentors when I was a young attorney who were able to instruct me in different things on all aspects of doing legal work and what to look for in clients. And I think what I learned over a number of years, and it took me not half my career, but a long time to figure out not only what type of clients are my ideal client, but also what type of firm is. So I've worked at both very small firms and very large firms, and I'm out for what Phoenix is a mid-sized firm in certain cities, not in DC, New York, LA, Chicago, we'd be a small firm. But for us, for our market, we're a mid-sized firm. I like the feel and fit of that. My clients are, like I said, generally closely held businesses. I've found I like dealing with owners and dealing with the people who are really the decision makers. And it just came over time, and it's worked out quite well. And I always go back to one thing, and I don't think it's exact, because I think when I think of my client mix, it's a very diverse group of people and their backgrounds in every which way. But an older gentleman that I knew, one of those guys that every time you talked to him, you went away with something to think about it. It was really just a really deep thinking person. And at one point he talked about it, and this must have been probably almost 20 years ago. And at the time he must have been, I'm bad with ages, he could have been in his late 40s, early 50s. And he told me it took him a long time to figure out who his ideal client was. And he said, I looked in the mirror and it was people like me. And I took that to heart, in that obviously you connect with people that are more similar to you. But at the same time, like I said, I think you can broaden from there to people that may be different in backgrounds and different ways from you. And for me, it can be different, like I said. So what if I'm dealing with a doctor who's been educated for all these years, but I may have a much more successful client who owns a construction subcontracting company who may or may not have even graduated from high school, but yet they've built this incredible business. And so to me, one of the more interesting things of what I do is learning about the people and learning about these businesses, because it's the businesses that you can't think of or don't imagine that are sitting in some corner of some industrial park doing incredible business, and you just walk by that door not even understanding what they did or giving them a second thought.
Yeah, totally agree, 100%. I actually have a question here from someone on LinkedIn. I don't have the name of the person, but Neal, do you have experience in the cannabis and hemp spaces?
I do. I have a little bit. Well, really what I do is I lean on some partners of mine that have actually vast experience in both the cannabis and the hemp spaces. I've dealt with different contracting and lease issues, because every state that has either recreational or medical marijuana laws have different rules and laws. In Arizona, we have rules about how close you can be to schools, churches, et cetera. And so we've dealt with a lot of those issues. I also have partners where we've worked where they do receiverships, because a lot of times in these businesses, there's so much cash that it's amazing. Both product and cash can kind of disappear at times when you're keeping it all in a safe. And sometimes there's issues. And we've had a lot of partnership disputes between owners in these spaces. And then also, actually, I've just had it come up recently, an issue where, we've got a company that contracted because they wanted hemp grown, but then the people who grew it, who promised they could do it correctly, did it, and the percentage of THC was too high. Guess what? You can't use it as hemp then. And so a lot of interesting issues coming up in that area. And I think in Arizona, it's going to continue, and it's actually going to get much larger of a space for work, because we've got recreational marijuana on the ballot coming in November. And I was actually just listening to the news this morning, and it was reporting that 2/3 of the expected voters are supporting that measure. So if that gets put into place, it's going to open up again a whole another area of legal conundrums, maybe we can call it.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's for me. It's kind of crazy that it's getting legalized all over the place. I didn't expect that in my lifetime, but hey, last question, and I definitely need to respect your time, so I appreciate you joining us. Is there a marketing strategy that's worked especially well for you in the past?
Yeah, there's a few, and I've kind of honed this over the years. In it's the easy things and the obvious, which is kind of what life is a lot of times. It's staying in touch with people. Obviously, it's changed a little during COVID, in that we've all done some Zoom meetings. Well, most people are burnt out on Zoom happy hours. I laugh. I've probably got 3 different Zoom meetings or happy hours scheduled this week. The ironic thing now is the happy hour may involve us, someone picking up a glass of water. Once in a while, last week I did have a banker who was a little overloaded and had a glass of bourbon in front of him. But, that's changed the landscape. Here in Arizona, we're just getting comfortable. I've done a few in-person meetings where I know that it can be safe. Like everybody, I've got elderly parents, and you're trying to be a little bit careful within reason, but not trying to take too much risk. I've also put in time, and I've done this consistently, and I found myself doing it more in the last 6 months since I've been working from home mostly. And that's really, always reaching out a little bit by email if I have that level of connection where I know I can do a soft touch like that. But I've been taking out some time and every day trying to make a call or two just for 5 or 10 minutes, not a long, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? How's your business? But just a real check-in with people. And a lot of times it's not only with networking sources and business development sources, it can be with clients. I kind of just mix it up. And it's always usually an interesting part of the day, and you find out what people are doing and learn something new. And also the other thing that I've done, our firm has we do plans every year, like a business plan in a way, with goals, and set out SMART goals and all that kind of stuff. And years ago, I decided I had a few years where I'd do something new every year and I'd see if it stuck. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. And so I do a blog called Business Law Guy. And it's more about business than law. It's about topics that interest me, from mentoring. I've done it about meditation. I've done it about how you treat people, staying connected, about business and networking issues, all kinds of things. I've probably been doing it for 6 or 7 years, so there's quite a lot of them now. And what it does, it gives you the ability to do it by direct mail. I'm sure you know this: direct mail, website, social media, all these sources. And what it really helps do is, I think, also raise you in SEO. Well, you or I may not find a professional, whether it's an attorney, an accountant, whoever, through searching Google. A lot of people do, and I get really interesting and sometimes very lucrative work from people who have found me through searching online. And so it's kind of a big connected strategy to have presence, and then also then doing something really important, which is actually doing good work. Having my team and I do really good work, because then you can get good reviews, and that all helps. If you get on some of these different, best lawyers, super lawyers, things like that, it's up to people in their mind what that means to them, if it's really impressive or not. But I can tell you, I think all of that helps, again, with this kind of overall presence and social media presence. And so I believe it really has helped me when I find out where people find me online. And so I think it's like everything is, you've got to come up with strategies. You try a few things and you see what works, and then you stick with what does. But as I've been telling younger attorneys at our firm for months now, is this is not the time to stick your head in the sand. It's really the time to stay in touch with your contacts. For what we do, there's a lot of work out there, a lot of people who need help. And if it's not going to be us that helps them, someone else will.
100% agree. Yep. I love the blog idea. It sounds very much like a personal brand, and you're writing about things that pertain to you as a lawyer, and you tie it into the work that you do day in and day out, and then people resonate with that, and they find you. It's great. Love it. You mentioned the URL for the blog, but what about for your website? If someone wants to find you, say the person who asked the cannabis question, where would they go? What's your website?
JaburgWilk.com, just for the ease of spelling. It's JaburgWilk.com. If not, if you put my name in, that link will come up first, my bio on our website. And otherwise, I also can be found at businesslawguy.com.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks so much, Neal. For everyone who's watching, if you are interested in finding out more ways to grow your business and more marketing strategies, tune in to Journey to $100 Million. It's a daily podcast where we talk about how we're growing our business and how we're helping our own ideal customers, who are doctors, lawyers, and home services professionals, grow to $100 million themselves. Thanks so much, Neal.
Thank you.
All right.